All right, so again, the thing I would like to work on as a skill, if you're worried about, okay, what is the topic that I'm supposed to be learning, that is an if-else statement, one where the conditions are linked together. So we'll work on this through an animation, but if-else statements are what we're going to be practicing about. And the world I'm going to create here, I'm just going to make a simple background. I don't really need... I'll just, I don't know, bathroom tile, sure. So it doesn't really matter to me what my world, my background looks like for this one. But I'm going to go and grab an actor now. And I'm going to look for an animated one. So to help you do this assignment, I'll show you how I would start right from the very beginning. So the first thing I'm going to pick, and hopefully you're more creative than me. I mean, that really says a lot if you're not as creative as me. I'm a pretty type A kind of guy, but I'm sure there's much more inspirational things out there that you can come up with in your code. I'm just going to look for walking. Now, let me help you find a few things. First, that's easier to use is some search tools. I'm going to change the size to be an icon just so I don't have to start skimming through all the different things, okay? So I'll pick an icon size to limit the things to smaller pieces. And in type, I'll pick animation. And that way, I'm going to be limited to just things that are animated. So hey, you want to do Sonic the Hedgehog as part of your project? Maybe a year-end video game, make a new level for Sonic. There you go. There's an animated Sonic. I am looking for Megaman, who I know is on this page somewhere. Ah, there we go. So I'll show you what he looks like when he walks. Hopefully. There he goes. And the other thing I like about the one I picked, you might not be able to see it very clearly, but the checkers around him mean he's transparent. So that way I don't have to spend any Photoshop time with you. Hopefully I'm able to just say, yes, yes, please, I want that one. And he has 10 frames. Come on, move over. My mouse is, there we go. So I'll download my Megaman walking. So I'll save this in my scenario. Remember, you want to keep your project together. So I'm going to go to the desktop. I called this my animation if-else scenario, and it's in the sounds. So I don't need to keep more information than just Megaman, so that's what I'm going to keep track of. This is Megaman that I'm saving. Okay. So if I'm to go in here right now and say, let's make a new actor called Megaman. And that's who he is. You know, you might be excited thinking, oh, that's so easy. I can't wait to use my animated character. And I put him in this game and I run Greenfoot and where's the animation? Well, he's stuck on the first frame because we haven't told Java how to walk through each one. So fortunately for us, there are several ways of doing it. I'm going to go back to Google and find a website that'll split it for me. So just type in GIF animation splitter. And I've used this one before, which is going to separate the frames. So they're calling it explode, as in you take one image and explode it into all the images in the frame. So I'll say upload that one I just got from Google. So it's in my images folder, and it's this one. And I'll save it. Same place, keep everything nice and organized so I know where to find it after in my images folder there. Okay, so what you get is a zip file. And this, oops. Okay, what you get is a zip file here. So you'll need to extract all those files in order to work with them. So I don't want to use that folder. I'm going to just make it the images one. I don't want to put it in another folder. But Anyway, hopefully this is no mystery how to unzip a file. I'm probably wasting some of your time showing you this, but there we go. Now, the nice convenient thing about it right now is you can see the number, and that's what I wanted, 0 to 9. We're going to manipulate this naming convention that it goes from 0 to 9. So I'll show you the general flavor that we're going to do. I'll go into Megaman, and unfortunately this one, we do actually need to have that many variables to keep track of that many pictures. So Greenfoot image. And it's always good to name things appropriately. So I'm going to call this, I'll call it sequence 1. Actually, I'll call it sequence 0 since ours starts at 0. We start here at 0, then 1, all the way up to 9. So I'll call my variable sequence 0, and I'll attach it to that. Okay, so I need to have 10 variables. So I'll go back now and just update these to be the different images in my sequence. Now, you're going to look back at this lesson later in the year and say, oh my, that is horribly, what's the word I'm looking for? That's not very elegant. That's there's better ways of doing this, but it's possible to do it this way. I'll walk you through it, and it'll give us a way of practicing the if-else statement. So what I'm going to do now is take each one of these, and I'm going to attach the images. So that happens in my constructor for Megaman. And how do you know it's the constructor? I don't know if if you still remember that, but it's important. The class name is Megaman. So if I want to find the constructor, it has the exact same name, Megaman. And I don't have to say that it's void or int. I just say this is how you build Megaman. Okay, so let's go set up these images. Sequence 0 is a new Greenfoot image, and I'm not sure if you remember the way it was labeled, but it was temp 0, and I believe it's still a GIF. Yep, it's still a GIF. And now I need to repeat this process here for the other images in sequence. And apparently I can't count because I missed one. So there is a pitfall, of course, with copy and paste, and that's if you forget to do one of these things, your picture will look funny. So hopefully you're just careful with it for the moment while we don't have a better technique. Do you remember what Java does when you ask for this? Anybody remember what will the value of this be? When you first say to Java that you want to keep track of an image, it's going to make it null. Any object that you have takes on the value null, meaning no one lives here until you ask Java to build it. So this is me using Greenfoot's image constructor. I build an object, and Java now keeps track of it for me. But before I do this, nobody's home. So the keyword is null. You'll find all those things are null. Now, this one's very similar to the walk we did before, but I'm going to show you the way you extend the if-else block. So I'll call this public void. Maybe I'll call it animate this time. And we can keep doing, let's try this here. I'll show you a few possibilities, and I'm going to give you one improvement for today's class. So I'm going to say if this image I'm getting is equal to sequence 0, then the next frame I want to play is sequence 1. So set the image to be sequence 1. So I'm going to repeat this process for all the images, advancing them one forward. So that means this will be sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and finally 9. So all I need to do now is say, if I'm currently on sequence 1, go to sequence 2. If I'm on sequence 3, sorry, missed that one. If I'm on sequence 2, go to sequence 3. If I'm on sequence 3, go to sequence 4. So I'll continue this until I've connected everybody in my animation. And one thing that I'll just say about it, because I have mentioned that there are better ways of doing this, and apparently talking and coding is not a good way to do it, because I mixed up a couple of them. But our discipline of computing science, technique is huge. If you want to do very well, you know, build very interesting software, interesting games, you need to know lots of very, very good techniques. So some people, you know, you can build an animation this way, but most people that know better would say, why would you? I have a better technique. So we'll keep building on our techniques to make you good computing scientists. But that's why we're going to be more than programmers here. We're going to try and learn the computing science end of things, which is more versatile. So the only other thing you may want an explanation on is if you are on the last frame in the sequence, you go back to the first frame in the sequence. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And right now, this is the one which is not very good because it's if. I might have already found my answer. I might have said right here, oh, I am on sequence 0. I don't need to ask this question anymore if I know that one was true. So the way we link them together is we say otherwise if you're sequence 1. Otherwise if you're sequence 2. And we keep going this way. And this chains all of those statements together so Java knows that as soon as one of them is true, it's not possible for any more to be true. And the last statement here, it's only possible in my world that if it wasn't anybody before, it had to be sequence 9 is visible. So then I use the else statement. In this way, Java will keep asking that question until it gets the answer, and then it stops asking anybody else because it knows only one thing gets executed here. If it was sequence 3, it will ignore everybody else down here because you only go to sequence 4 if this one was false. Okay? So this is a gain in productivity as well as a better programming practice. So now I have a guy who should be able to animate. I just, of course, need to plug a couple quick things in here. I'll start him off at sequence 0. And when he acts, I will say you need to animate yourself. Okay, so Megaman. If I put him in the world now, I haven't connected a keyboard or anything to Megaman, so he's not going to do anything except run in place. It's possible to slow him down. It's possible to do other things. But let's talk technique here. Okay, I'm going to comment this out. I'll post this for you. But I'm going to comment this code out so you can consider the alternative. Does anybody notice something very convenient about the names in these files? 0, 1. Do you notice that? Wouldn't it be nice if we could pair together that number with the file and just know where we were? So that's what I want to do is I'm going to say, you know what, Megaman? Rather than this giant if-else statement, I'm going to have you keep track of where you are. So to do that, Megaman needs to know what frame he's looking at. So down here, we haven't started yet. So I'm going to say, please put the frame at 0. And if I want to animate this now, let me show you what I can do. I'm going to say, please go to the next frame. So frame is equal to frame plus 1. Whoops. So this Megaman remembers what frame it's on. It goes to the next frame every time I ask it to animate itself. And now I need to go and locate Megaman. So the way I'll do that is with a string. This is what we call words in Java. So string file name is, for us, it's temp dash, and there's a GIF in there. So I'll show you one example like this. So in Java, when you want to join numbers together with strings, you use the plus sign. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to say this will only work for temp1, but this will work for all those files. So what it'll do is it will take the frame that I'm on, and it will build this file name for me. And then down here, I'll say set the image to be a new green foot image with that file name. So much less code. However, there's an error. So let me show you what went wrong. Maybe you can predict what's going to go wrong. Anybody think they know what's going to go wrong here? So I put Megaman in the world. Oh, he just stopped. Why do you think he stopped? Let's see what Java had to say about it. Could not find temp-10. Well, what happens is every time we animate, we go forward one. So we would need to stop going forward one, right? So what I could say here is if frame is greater than 9, last frame in my animation, frame equals 0. And this will make sure that the frame stays within those bounds. Every time it goes out, it starts it back at the beginning. So let me show you that this does correct the problem here. If I put Megaman in, now he's happy to run and run and run. Okay? And look at all the code that I saved by doing it that way. Okay, so one more thing, and I know you're bursting right now with beginner Java confusion, and that's okay because you're going to get to wrestle with this for a while. But the last thing I'm going to do is show you yet a better technique. This is such a common thing to do where we count and restart a count that there is actually a math operator for this. You may not realize what you're doing, but I'll show you the pattern and then maybe you can figure out what math you're doing. So this is what I would like the frame to do. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oops, sorry, that should be a 10. And then we'll just say it keeps going. Here's what I would like to see. That's legitimate. That's legitimate. So for these legitimate ones, I might as well just use the number. But this one, I want it to go back to 0. So I want it to go 0 to 9, 0 to 9. And you probably haven't done this math for a very long time, but I'm actually using a remainder here. I'm just asking how much is left over when I divide by 10. So if I divide 10 by 10, the leftover is 0. It went in perfectly. 11 divided by 10 has 1 left over. 12 divided by 10 has 2 left over. 13 divided by 10 has 3 left over. So the way you find a remainder in Java is with the percent sign. So I'm going to go like this instead and say the frame is equal to the frame percent 10. So remainder 10 keeps the numbers from 0 to 9. If you think about it, how many are left over when you divide by 10? Well, you may not know how many, but you know it has to be between 0 and 9, or it would have gone in again. If you can't have remainder 11, that means divide it one more time and with remainder 1. So this keeps track of the frame instead of worrying about that if statement. So now when I run Megaman, I didn't actually need any if statements, and it can burn through it here. So, oops, put them up there. And now he's running on steroids because he's fast as I can make him in terms of if-else statements are out of there. Okay, now, promise we're done, but I would just like to be clear about what I would like you to reproduce. You get to pick any animated character you want to reproduce. I want to see all 3 techniques from you. One where you show me an if-else chain and demonstrate that it can work if you do it this way. Okay? One where you use a frame that doesn't go out of bounds. And one where you use this handy-dandy remainder operator. Okay? So you can do it all in the same scenario where you comment out as you evolve your code. But I would like to see that you know those techniques and that you can reproduce this in Java. You may have a different number of frames in mind. If it's annoying to do 10, then find an animation with less. But that is your job to practice, and I will get you off to it right now.